My fiancée ended our wedding with a text after her ex offered her a trip to Paris. I sent her on a very different kind of journey, and now she's the one begging. I'm 31, my fiancée, Lauren, 29, and I were together for 3 years. Engaged for 8 months. Wedding fully planned, deposits paid, invitations already sent. We live together in a condo I own. I work in commercial real estate development, which means long hours but stable money. Lauren works in marketing for a boutique fashion brand. She cares a lot about aesthetics, status, and how things look from the outside. That's relevant. For most of our relationship, things were fine. Not perfect, but stable. We argued about normal stuff. Money, schedules, her tendency to escalate small disagreements into full character assessments of me. She has a sharp tongue. I used to think it was just passion. Lately, I've been reevaluating that. About 2 months before the wedding, her ex resurfaced. The ex she always described as immature and beneath her. Apparently beneath her enough to DM her again. She told me about it in a weirdly casual way, like she expected me to laugh it off. I didn't love it, but I didn't panic either. I trusted her. Or I thought I did. Over the next few weeks, she got increasingly secretive with her phone. Not hiding it exactly, just angling it away. Smiling at notifications. When I asked who she was texting, she'd say friends in a tone that implied I was already being unreasonable. Then last month, while I was in a meeting with investors, I got a text from her. No warning. No conversation beforehand. She was ending the wedding. Not the engagement discussion. The wedding. Over text. And the reason she gave was that she needed space to figure out her feelings after being offered a spontaneous trip to Paris by her ex. That's when I realized I wasn't the one who was about to go on a trip. I stared at that text for a full minute like my phone had glitched. I reread it 3 times because my brain kept trying to turn it into something less insane. She did not say I need to talk. She did not say we should postpone. She said she was ending the wedding because she had feelings to sort out and her ex was offering Paris like it was a little gift card. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Then she finally sent another text that basically said, "Do not blow up my phone. I am overwhelmed. You are proving why I need space." That was Lauren in a nutshell. Set the house on fire, then complained the smoke is stressing her out. I drove home early. Not to beg. Not to argue. I just needed to see what the situation actually was. She was on the couch with her laptop open, scrolling flights, acting like I was the interruption. She did not even stand up. She looked at me like I was a co-worker who walked into the wrong meeting. Then she started in immediately. How she had been carrying the relationship. How she did not feel chosen. How I was practical and boring. How Paris would help her clear her head. She said it in this smug, airy way, like she was auditioning for a movie where the heroine leaves the safe guy behind. I asked one question. Are you going to Paris with him? She rolled her eyes and said, "You always make everything so dramatic." She said it could be just a trip, that it did not mean anything, that I was insecure. Then she added that if I was a better partner, she would not even be tempted. That was the moment something clicked for me. Not heartbreak. Clarity. If someone can cancel a wedding by text because an ex waves a plane ticket, then I was not marrying my partner. I was marrying a liability with good lighting. So I told her calmly that she was free to go. But we were done, and she was not coming back to my place like nothing happened. She laughed. Actually laughed. She said, "You cannot kick me out just because I am taking a trip." That was when I realized she thought I was bluffing. Lauren genuinely believed I was reacting emotionally and would calm down by morning. That is how our dynamic had worked before. She would push, escalate, say something cutting, and I would try to stabilize things. She expected that pattern. I did not yell. I did not argue. I asked a very basic question instead. "Are you still planning to go on this trip?" She said yes, probably next week. She said it like she was confirming a hair appointment. So I told her clearly that if she chose to go on a romantic trip funded by her ex 2 months before our wedding, then we were no longer engaged, and she needed to arrange other living accommodations immediately. I reminded her that the condo is solely in my name. She is not on the deed. She contributes to utilities and groceries, but the mortgage and HOA are mine. She smirked and said I was being transactional, that I always turn everything into contracts and logistics. She said love is not a lease agreement. I agreed, but housing is. She tried to pivot into a bigger emotional speech about how suffocated she felt and how maybe Paris would remind her who she is outside of me. I did not engage with the speech. I asked again, very directly, "Are you going?" She said yes. She said she deserved to feel wanted. She emphasized wanted, like I had been withholding oxygen. That was enough information for me. I told her she had 24 hours to move out. Not out of anger. Just logistics. She has a sister 10 minutes away and parents an hour outside the city. She also has friends who have been loudly supportive of her finding herself. There were options. I said I would give her the day and night to pack essentials and arrange the rest. Her expression changed then. Not regret. Not sadness. Annoyance. She said you would really throw away 3 years over one trip. I said no. I am reacting to you throwing away a marriage for one. She accused me of being cold. Maybe I was. But I was not going to compete with a plane ticket. And I was not going to finance the exit of my own wedding. The next 24 hours were not dramatic. They were tense and efficient. Lauren did not cry. She did not apologize. She alternated between icy silence and small verbal jabs about how I was overreacting and proving her point about me being emotionally unavailable. I did not debate her. I worked from my home office, took my calls, and made actual logistical moves. First, I contacted the venue and vendors. Catering, photographer, florist, band. I asked what was refundable and what was not. I did not frame it as maybe. I said the wedding was canceled. I would rather lose deposits than pretend this was temporary. Second, I called my attorney. Not to escalate. Just to confirm I was within my rights regarding the condo. She was not on the title. There was no cohabitation agreement. No shared accounts. My lawyer confirmed that giving her notice to leave was reasonable and that I should document communication in writing. So I followed up with a short email summarizing what I had said verbally. That the engagement was terminated. That she needed to vacate within 24 hours. That I would coordinate pickup of remaining items within 2 weeks if needed. Calm, factual, no insults. When she saw the email come through, she snapped. She said I was humiliating her. That I was acting like she had cheated when she had not technically done anything. She emphasized technically like it was a shield. I told her I was not accusing her of anything physical. I was responding to behavior. Canceling a wedding by text and booking a trip to Paris with an ex was a decision. I was simply responding to it. She shifted into superiority mode. She said I was small for making housing conditional. She said a confident man would not feel threatened by a flight and a hotel. She framed it like I was failing some maturity test. I did not ask whether the ticket was booked. I did not need confirmation. The wedding had already been canceled. The message had already been sent. The intent was clear enough. At that point, my mind was settled. This was not about Paris anymore. It was about the fact that she believed she could end our wedding, test drive another option, and keep her living situation secure in case she changed her mind. I was not going to be the backup plan with a mortgage. By that evening, she had packed 2 large suitcases and several tote bags. She moved through the condo like she was staying in a hotel she had outgrown. Detached, mildly inconvenienced. She made a point of taking her time in the bedroom. I stayed in the living room and let her do it. I was not going to supervise packing like a security guard. I trusted that whatever she took was hers. I was not interested in splitting furniture or arguing over dishes. Most of what mattered to me was already mentally written off. Around midnight, she stood by the door with her luggage and looked at me like she expected a last-minute reversal. A dramatic speech. Some grand gesture. I did not offer one. She said, "This is crazy. You know that, right? All of this over one opportunity." I told her it was not one opportunity. It was a choice she already made. I was just respecting it. She shook her head and said I would regret this. That men like me do not get many women like her. That when she posted from Paris I would understand what I lost. It was a strange sales pitch for someone walking out. I opened the door for her. That was the end of the in-person part. The next morning, I changed the keypad code to the condo and forwarded her mail to her sister's address. I also removed her access from the shared streaming accounts and our joint Costco membership. Small things, but clean lines matter. I expected anger. I expected a barrage of texts. Instead, I got silence for about 48 hours. Then her Instagram story popped up. Airport lounge. Champagne glass. Caption about choosing yourself. That was when the situation shifted from personal to strategic in my head. Because if she wanted a trip, I was about to send her on a different kind of journey entirely. I did not react to her story. I did not reply. I did not send anything passive-aggressive. I simply watched long enough to confirm what I already knew. Airport lounge. Champagne glass. Caption about choosing yourself. That was the last update I saw from her. Because right after that, I blocked her. Phone number first. Then Instagram. Then Facebook. I removed her from LinkedIn too, since she liked to curate there as well. I was not interested in front row seats to her experiment. and I was not going to give her access to me while she tested whether Paris felt better than stability. Blocking was not emotional. It was procedural. If she had chosen to end the wedding by text, she did not get ongoing access to me while abroad. Then I started tying off every remaining loose end. I contacted the venue and asked for written confirmation that our date had been officially released. I did the same with catering and photography. Anything refundable was sent back to my account since I had paid every deposit. I documented everything in a spreadsheet. Losses included. Clean ledger. I also sent a short email to our guest list. The wedding will not be taking place. Thank you for your understanding. No explanation. No drama. I was not going to participate in speculation or defend myself in group chats. Then I called the jeweler and initiated the return process for the engagement ring. It was within policy. That refund alone covered most of what we lost on deposits. I canceled our honeymoon flights to Greece as well. Those were in my name. I did not announce any of it. There was no performance. But by the time she was halfway across the Atlantic, the infrastructure of our engagement was already dismantled, and she had no way to reach me directly to test whether I was bluffing. That silence was intentional. She landed back in the country 5 days later. I did not know the exact time because I had blocked her everywhere, but I found out indirectly. My sister called me that evening and asked what was going on. Apparently, Lauren had started messaging mutual friends saying she could not reach me and that I was overreacting. That told me two things. First, she assumed I would be waiting. Second, she did not expect consequences to extend past the airport. About an hour after that call, there was a knock on my door. Not frantic, not desperate, controlled. I checked the camera feed on my phone before opening it. She was standing there with a single suitcase and her carry-on. No ex in sight. No Paris glow. Just irritation. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She immediately launched into it. She said blocking her was childish. That normal adults talk things through. That she had gone to clear her head, and I had escalated everything unnecessarily. I let her finish. Then I told her there was nothing to talk through. The wedding had been canceled. The ring had been returned. The honeymoon was refunded. Our vendors were notified. Our guests were informed. Her face shifted at that. She asked what I meant about the ring. I explained calmly that since we were no longer engaged, I returned it within the policy window. The funds were already processed. That was the first crack in her composure. She said I was supposed to wait. That she thought we would talk when she got back. That she just needed space to compare feelings and see what was real. Compare. That word did more than Paris ever could. I told her I am not an option on a menu. If she needed to compare, then the choice was already made. She said she had not slept with him. That it was just dinners and walking around and talking. I told her it did not matter. Because the relationship ended the moment she sent that text. And I was not reopening negotiations. She did not leave immediately. Instead, she shifted into negotiation mode. She said I was being rigid. That real relationships survive doubts. That it was unrealistic to expect someone to never question their choices before marriage. She framed her trip like it was research. Like she had done due diligence and now had clarity. I asked her one thing. If Paris had felt better, would you be here right now? She did not answer directly. She said that was not fair. That emotions are complex. That I was oversimplifying. That was answer enough. Then she tried a different angle. She said the ex was not what she remembered. That he was still immature. That he talked about himself constantly. That she realized I was stable and reliable. She actually used the word reliable like it was a consolation prize. I told her reliable is not an insult. But it is also not something you test drive against a backup. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. She said she was willing to forget the blocking, the cancellations, all of it, if we could just reset. She said no one even needed to know the wedding had been called off permanently. We could reschedule quietly. That is when I understood the real panic. It was not about love. It was about optics. Invitations had already gone out. Friends had already seen the Paris posts. She did not want to be the woman who left her fiancé for an ex and came back single. She wanted to revise the storyline. I told her there was nothing to reset. I had already informed our guests. There was no secret version of this where we pretend it was a scheduling issue. Then I opened the door behind me, stepped inside, and told her this conversation was over. I said she needed to leave the property immediately and not come back without arranging a time through email for collecting anything she had left behind. She stared at me like I had just slapped her. She said I could not be serious. I told her I was completely serious. Then I closed the door. I locked it. And I did not reopen it when she knocked again. She knocked for about 2 minutes. Not hysterically. Not screaming. Just firm, controlled knocks like she still believed this was temporary. Then the knocking stopped. My phone started vibrating almost immediately after. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then another unknown number. Then a text from her sister asking if I could please be reasonable. I did not respond that night. The next morning, I sent one email. Subject line, retrieval of personal property. I gave her 2 available time slots over the next week when I would be present, so she could collect whatever remained. I made it clear that after that window, anything left would be boxed and placed in storage at her expense. No insults. No commentary. Just procedure. She replied within 15 minutes. The tone was different now. Less sharp. More urgent. She said I was being extreme and that we needed closure. She said she felt blindsided by how final I was being. That word almost made me laugh. Blindsided. She ended our wedding by text so she could go to Paris with her ex. I responded within 24 hours. There was nothing sudden about that. She showed up during the first time slot. This time there was no speech. No philosophy about passion. She walked in quietly, looked around the condo like it already belonged to someone else, and packed the remaining clothes and cosmetics from the bathroom. At one point she paused in the kitchen and said she did not think I would actually let her go. That was probably the most honest thing she said. I told her I am not here to hold someone who wants to test alternatives. She nodded, but it was not agreement. It was disbelief. When she finished, she stood near the door and asked if this was really it. I said yes. She waited a second longer, like there might be a twist ending. There was not. She left with the last of her things. And for the first time in weeks, the condo felt quiet in a way that was not tense. I thought that would be the end of it. For about 3 weeks, it was. No messages. No surprise visits. Mutual friends stopped bringing her up once they realized I was not interested in postmortems. Work filled the space quickly. Deals do not pause because your engagement implodes. Then she emailed me. Not to argue. Not to accuse. To ask if we could meet for coffee. She wrote that she had been thinking a lot. That Paris was not what she expected. That she realized she confused excitement with compatibility. She said she saw now that stability is rare and that she had taken it for granted. I read it once and closed it. 2 days later, another email. This one was less polished. She said she made a mistake. That the ex had already moved on emotionally even while they were there. That she felt stupid. She said she missed our routines. The grocery runs. The Sunday mornings. The predictability. She said she would do anything to fix it. I did not respond. No clarification. No debate. No closure meeting. Silence was the answer. A week after that, she sent one final message. Shorter. Less confident. She said she hoped I would reconsider. That people make mistakes before big commitments. That throwing everything away over one lapse seemed extreme. I did not respond to that either. Because from my perspective, nothing was thrown away impulsively. She made a decision when she canceled our wedding by text and boarded a flight with someone she once loved. I made mine when I refused to audition for the role of safest option. There is no anger left in me about it. Just a very simple boundary. If someone needs to compare you to see your value, let them finish the comparison without you. She wanted Paris. I wanted certainty. And I chose not to compete.
My fiancée cut me out of the New Year family trip I fully paid for. She said, "My mom wants my ex there. Don't make it awkward." I didn't argue. Happy New Year. After her flight took off, I made one quiet call. That night, while they were counting down in the hotel lobby, a knock came at their door. I'm 32, been engaged for 8 months, and I just learned that some people will take your money and your dignity without a second thought. The trip was my idea. New Year's getaway, beach resort, all-inclusive. Her parents, her brother and his wife, her sister, and us. I offered to pay. Had a good year at work. Wanted to do something nice for her family. Show them I was serious about being part of the family. That I could provide. Be generous. Booked everything in October. $10,000 total. Flights, hotel, excursions, everything covered. Told her it was my gift to the family. She cried. Said I was amazing. Said her parents would love me even more. Her mom called me the next day. Thanked me profusely. Said no one had ever done anything like this for their family, that I was already like a son to her. I felt good, felt like I was building something, investing in our future together. November came. Wedding planning was in full swing. We'd set a date for next October, venue booked, Deposits paid, everything moving forward. Life was good. Or so I thought. 3 weeks ago, she came home from her parents' house looking uncomfortable, sat down on the couch, wouldn't make eye contact. We need to talk about the trip. What about it? My mom has a request. It's kind of awkward. Okay. What is it? She wants to invite my ex to the trip. I stared at her. Your ex? The one you dated for 3 years? Yeah, him. Why would she want to invite your ex to a family trip that I'm paying for? They're still close. He and my mom. They kept in touch after we broke up. She sees him like another son. And she wants him there for New Year's? Yeah, she does. And what do you think about that? She hesitated. I think it would be nice for her. She misses him. But I'm your fiancé. I'm paying for this trip. And she wants your ex there? I know it's weird, but it would mean a lot to her. What about what it means to me? You're secure, right? It's not like there's anything between us anymore. That's not the point. The point is, your mother wants to invite your ex to a trip I'm funding. That's disrespectful. You're being insecure. I'm being rational. We argued for an hour. Got nowhere. She said I was making it about me when it was about her mom. I said it was about basic respect and boundaries. She said I was being controlling. I said I was being reasonable. She slept in the guest room that night. The next morning, she came into the bedroom before work. I talked to my mom. She really wants him there. She's willing to pay for his ticket if that makes you more comfortable. It's not about the money. Then what's it about? It's about your mother prioritizing your ex over me. About you supporting that. About both of you making me feel like I'm not enough. You're enough. This isn't about you. It's completely about me. About where I stand in this family. Just think about it. Please. It would mean so much to her. She left for work. I sat there, processing, trying to understand how we'd gotten here, how my generous gift had turned into this situation. I thought about it all day. That night, I told her my decision. I'm not comfortable with your ex coming on the trip. I told my mom you'd probably say that. And she said if that's how you feel, maybe you should skip the trip. Let us have family time. My blood went cold. She wants me to skip the trip I paid for? She didn't say it like that. She just said maybe it would be less awkward if you weren't there, since you're not comfortable with him being there. So the options are, accept your ex coming or don't come at all. I mean, yeah, I guess. And you agree with this? I think it's practical. You'd be uncomfortable the whole time anyway. Because your ex is there, which shouldn't be happening. But it is happening. My mom already invited him. He already said yes. When did she invite him? Last week. Before we even discussed this? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. The answer was obvious. So this wasn't a request. This was a decision, and you all decided without me. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. 2 weeks ago, she made it official. My mom wants my ex there. Don't make it awkward. Just maybe sit this one out. We can do something together for New Year's Eve. Just us. I paid for this trip. I know, and we're grateful. Really. But it's family time. And you being uncomfortable would make everyone uncomfortable. I'm not family? You are. But you're also not comfortable with this situation, so maybe it's better if you stay home. I looked at her. At the woman I'd planned to marry. The woman whose family I'd just spent $10,000 on. The woman who was now telling me I wasn't invited to my own gift. Happy New Year? I said. She looked confused. What? Nothing. Have fun on the trip. You're not even going to fight this? What's there to fight? You've all decided. I'm just the bank, apparently. That's not fair. None of this is fair, but that doesn't seem to matter. She left the room. We didn't speak much over the next week. She was busy preparing for the trip, packing, coordinating with her family, talking about how excited she was. I watched, said nothing, made plans of my own. The day of the trip came, December 30th, early morning flight. She had her bags by the door, waiting for her brother to pick her up and drive everyone to the airport. "You're really not going to say anything?" she asked. "Have a good trip." "You're being childish." "I'm being exactly what you expect me to be, quiet and compliant." Her brother honked outside. She grabbed her bags, walked to the door. "I'll text you when we land." "Sure." She left. I watched from the window as they loaded the car. Her parents, her siblings, all going on the trip I paid for, to meet her ex, who her mother preferred. After the car disappeared, I made one quiet call. The hotel, asked to speak to the manager, explained the situation, that I'd booked and fully paid for the reservations, that I was the only name on the account, that I wanted to make some changes. The manager was sympathetic, asked what I wanted to do. "I want to cancel everything except one room. Keep my reservation active. Cancel the rest." "That's a significant change. Are you sure?" "I'm sure. Can you do it?" "Yes. But we'll need confirmation since you're the account holder." "You have my confirmation. Cancel all but one room. I'll be using that room myself." "When will you be arriving?" "Tonight. I'll be on the evening flight." "Understood. We'll have everything ready for you." I hung up, booked a flight. Same resort, same hotel, different room. Left 2 hours after she did. Update 1, I landed at 7 p.m. Took a car to the resort. Checked in without issue. They'd kept my original room, canceled the others. I could see the confusion on her family's faces in my mind. Arriving to find only one room available. No bookings under their names, no confirmation. I settled into my room, didn't contact her, didn't text. Just waited. She called at 8:30. I was having dinner, didn't answer. She called again, and again. 12 calls in 30 minutes. I ignored them all. Finally, I texted, "Having issues with the resort?" She responded immediately, "Where are you?" "At the resort." "What? You're here?" "Yeah, using my reservation, the one I paid for." "What about our rooms?" "They're saying the reservations were canceled." "They were. I canceled them." My phone rang immediately. I answered this time. "You canceled our rooms?" "I canceled rooms that were under my name and my payment." "Yes." "Why would you do that?" "Because you uninvited me from my own gift. So I took back the gift." "This is insane." "Is it? You took my money but didn't want me there. Why would I keep paying for that?" "What are we supposed to do?" "Figure it out. There are other hotels, or maybe your ex can help, since he's so important to your mother." "You're being vindictive." "I'm being fair. I paid for a trip for me and my fiancé's family. Since my fiancé didn't want me there, I adjusted accordingly. My parents are furious. They should be furious with you. You're the one who chose your ex over your fiancé." "We're at the front desk. They're saying there's only one room under our name, your name." "That's correct. My room. For me." "You're really going to stay here while we scramble for rooms?" "I'm really going to use the reservation I paid for. What you do is up to you." She hung up. I finished my dinner, went back to my room, unpacked, made myself comfortable, opened the balcony door, could hear commotion in the lobby below, voices, arguing, her family figuring out their situation. Around 10 p.m., someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole. Her mother, face red, angry. I opened the door. "How could you do this?" she said immediately. "Do what?" "Cancel our rooms, leave us stranded." "I didn't leave you stranded. I canceled reservations that were my gift to you, since you decided my gift came with the condition that I not be present." "That's not what happened." "That's exactly what happened. You wanted my money, but not me. So I kept both. You're being cruel to the whole family over a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding. You wanted my fiancé's ex on this trip more than you wanted me. You got your wish. He's here. I'm here. Everyone's here, just not in rooms I paid for." "What do you expect us to do?" "Find other accommodations. There are plenty of hotels nearby." "It's New Year's Eve tomorrow. Everything's booked." "Sounds like a planning issue." You're doing this to punish us. I'm doing this to respect myself, something none of you did. She looked like she wanted to say more. Instead, she turned and left. I closed the door, locked it, went to bed. Update 2 New Year's Eve. I woke up to dozens of texts. From her siblings, from her father. All some variation of calling me cruel, vindictive, petty, immature. I responded to none of them, got ready. Had breakfast at the resort restaurant. Saw her sister across the dining area. She glared at me. I waved. She looked away. Around noon, my fiancé showed up at my room, knocked, yelled through the door. "We need to talk." I opened it. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept. "Did you find rooms?" I asked. "We're split up at 3 different hotels, none of them all-inclusive. We're paying out of pocket for everything." "That's unfortunate. This is ridiculous. You flew all the way here just to screw us over?" "I flew here to use the reservation I paid for. You're the one who screwed yourselves over by uninviting me." "I didn't uninvite you." "Yes, you did. You said not to make it awkward. To sit this one out. That's uninviting me." "I thought you'd understand." "Understand what? That your mother prefers your ex? That you agree with her? That my money is good but my presence isn't?" "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that. And now you're dealing with consequences." "What do you want? For me to apologize?" "Fine. I'm sorry. Can we please figure this out?" "There's nothing to figure out. I'm staying in my room, enjoying my vacation. You all can do whatever you want." "Can we at least talk? About us? What about us? About whether we're still engaged? Are you serious right now? You're asking if we're still engaged after everything you've done? I'm asking if you're going to end things over this." I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw someone who still didn't understand what she'd done wrong, who thought I was the problem. "I don't know. Are you going to keep prioritizing your ex and your mother over me?" "That's not what I'm doing." "Then what are you doing?" She didn't have an answer, just stood there, looking lost. "I need time," I said, "to think about whether I want to marry someone who treats me like an ATM with no feelings." "That's not fair. Go spend time with your family and your mom's favorite son. I'll be here, in the room I paid for." I closed the door. She stood outside for a few minutes, then left. Update 3. That night was New Year's Eve. The resort was doing a big celebration. Live music, champagne toast, fireworks. I got dressed. Nice shirt. Went downstairs around 11. The lobby was packed. Families, couples, everyone celebrating. I got a drink, found a spot near the window, watched the ocean, the moon reflecting on the water. Around 11:30, I saw them. Her family, her ex, all together. He was standing close to her. Too close. Her mother was beaming, talking to him like he belonged there. Her father looked uncomfortable. Her siblings were drinking, trying to enjoy themselves despite the drama. She saw me. Our eyes met across the lobby. I raised my glass, smiled. She looked away, whispered something to her ex. He looked at me, smirked. That's when I made the second call. To the hotel security, asked to speak to the manager again. "I have a concern about some guests. They're making me uncomfortable. Aggressive behavior earlier, harassment at my door. We take that very seriously. Do you want us to speak with them?" "I'd appreciate that. Just to ensure my safety. I'm here alone. They're a group. I feel outnumbered. We'll send someone immediately. Can you describe them?" I did. Described her family, her ex, their location in the lobby. 10 minutes later, security approached them. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see the confusion, the anger, her mother gesturing wildly, her father trying to calm everyone down. The countdown started. 10, 9, 8, everyone cheering. 7, 6, 5. Security was still talking to them. 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. Fireworks outside, cheering, kissing, celebrating. Her family being escorted out of the lobby by security. Because I'd made a complaint. Because I'd said I felt unsafe. Because this was my resort, my booking, and they were unwanted guests causing issues. I watched them leave, saw her looking back at me, face full of realization, understanding finally dawning that I wasn't going to just take this, that there were consequences, real ones. Update 4 New Year's Day. I woke up to a text from her father, the first reasonable communication I'd received. Can we talk? Man to man? I agreed. Met him at a coffee shop away from the resort. He looked tired, older than I remembered. This has gotten out of hand, he said. Has it? My daughter loves you. My wife made a mistake. But this, what you're doing, it's too much. What am I doing? You know what you're doing. Canceling rooms, calling security, making a spectacle of us. I canceled rooms I paid for. I called security because your family was harassing me. Those are reasonable actions. You flew here just to punish us. I flew here to use a reservation I booked and paid for, to enjoy a vacation. That's all. While we scramble and spend money we don't have? That's not my problem. You all made a choice to prioritize someone else over me. This is the result. My wife was wrong. I told her that, but she has a history with him. She sees him as family. I'm supposed to be family. I'm marrying her daughter, but apparently that doesn't matter as much as her comfort with her daughter's ex. What do you want? An apology? You have it. From me. From her mother. I want respect. I want my fiancée to choose me, over her ex, over her mother's preferences, over everything. But I don't think she can do that. She can. She will. Just give her a chance. I gave her chances, many of them. She chose wrong every time. We talked for another hour. He apologized repeatedly, said his wife was stubborn, that she'd made a mistake, that they'd fix it, that they wanted me in the family. I listened, didn't commit to anything, told him I needed time, to think, to decide if this was salvageable. He paid for coffee. We parted ways. Final update. I stayed at the resort for 3 more days, enjoyed my vacation, alone, read books, swam, relaxed, did everything I'd planned to do with her family, just solo. They left early, couldn't afford to stay, found a cheap place for one night, left on January 2nd. I stayed until the 4th, got my money's worth. When I got home, she was already there, sitting in the apartment we shared, waiting. We need to talk. Okay. I'm sorry. My mom was wrong. I was wrong. I should have stood up for you. You're right. You should have. Can you forgive me? I don't know. What can I do? Nothing. You can't undo what happened. You can't undo choosing your ex and your mom over me. Multiple times, that happened. It's real. It changed things. So we're done? I don't know. But we're not engaged anymore. Not until I figure out if I can trust you. She took off her ring, put it on the table, started crying. I love you. I'm sure you do. But love isn't enough when there's no respect. She moved out a week later, stayed with her parents. We talked occasionally, awkward conversations, testing if there was anything left. Her mother called to apologize, said she'd made a mistake, that she'd prioritized old comfort over new family, that she'd been wrong. I accepted her apology, didn't commit to anything else. Her ex stopped coming around. Apparently, the situation made him uncomfortable. Good. It should have. It's been 2 months. We're trying to rebuild, slowly, carefully. She's learning that choices have consequences, that disrespect has costs, that you can't take someone's generosity and treat them like garbage. I learned that sometimes you have to enforce boundaries dramatically. That quiet acceptance of disrespect just enables more disrespect. That standing up for yourself isn't cruel, even when it's uncomfortable for everyone else. The knock that came at their door that New Year's Eve was hotel security, explaining that there'd been a complaint, that they needed to leave the lobby, that they were making another guest uncomfortable, that guest being me, the person who'd paid for everything, the person they'd pushed aside, While they were counting down in that lobby, excited for a new year, that knock changed everything. Reminded them that actions have consequences, that you can't take someone's money and their dignity without pushback. I'm 32, single-ish. Learning that sometimes the person who loves you will hurt you worse than any stranger. Learning that family dynamics can poison relationships. Learning that standing up for yourself might look like revenge, but it's really just self-preservation. And learning that, when someone shows you where you rank in their priorities, believe them, and adjust your investment accordingly.
My fiancée falsely accused me and got me arrested, taunting, enjoy jail. What she didn't expect was that my one phone call went to my father, the captain of major crimes. He walked into the station and firmly asked the officer why his son was in handcuffs. My name is Marco, I am 31, and I work as a port logistics planner. I live in Rotterdam and my weeks are basically spreadsheets, shift calls, and early mornings. I do fine financially, nothing flashy, but stable. I like routine, and I am pretty direct when something feels off. My fiancée is Lena, 29. We have been together a little over 3 years. Engaged for 6 months. We do not have kids. We rent a 2-bedroom apartment together and split most bills. Wedding planning is technically in progress, even if it has felt like a slow fight. Lena can be sharp in a way that looks cute in public and mean in private. She corrects people for sport. She keeps score. She can turn any disagreement into a character trial where I am the defendant and she is the judge who already decided. For the last month, she has been weird about my phone and my schedule. Not suspicious like she thinks I am cheating, more like she wants leverage. She will ask where I am, then act bored when I answer, then later bring it up as proof I am hiding things. If I push back, she does that calm smirk and says I am getting emotional again. 2 nights ago, we argued over something stupid, a seating chart for her cousins, plus money, plus her saying my family never treats her like family. I said we should pause planning until we can talk like adults. She went quiet. Not sad quiet. Calculating quiet. Then she told me to sleep on the couch because she needed space. Yesterday morning I was making coffee when she walked in already dressed, bag packed, like she had rehearsed the scene. She said we need a break and she is going to her friend. I said fine, but we should talk about the lease and the deposits. That is when she stepped closer and said, with this nasty little grin, that I will not have to worry about deposits because I will be worrying about something else. 10 minutes later there was a knock. 2 officers. Lena behind them, arms folded, acting offended. She said I grabbed her and threatened her. The words came out too smooth, like she had practiced the exact version that would land. I tried to explain. They did not want to debate. One officer told me to turn around. Lena watched me get cuffed and leaned in close enough that only I could hear. She told me to enjoy jail. They walked me out past the neighbors like it was a show. Lena stayed in the doorway with that satisfied face, like she had just returned a defective product. I kept thinking there has to be some adult step in this process, where someone asks one follow-up question. It never came. In the car, I tried to keep my voice steady. I said there are cameras in the hallway and in the lobby. I said my phone has location history. I said check her story against anything. The officer in the passenger seat told me to save it for the station. The driver kept his eyes forward like I was already decided. At the station, they took my belt and my shoelaces and put my phone in a bag. I asked to call a lawyer. They said I could make one call after booking. My hands were still behind my back while they walked me through a hallway that smelled like disinfectant and cold coffee. The thing that kept looping in my head was the timing. Lena had been packed and ready. She chose the morning when my building would have people leaving for work. She chose the argument the night before to set up the couch story. This was not impulsive. This was a plan. When they finally took the cuffs off, my wrists had red lines. A desk officer read me my name like it was a label. Then a different officer came in with a clipboard and asked me to confirm my address and employer, like we were doing a customer intake. I asked what exactly she told them. He said he cannot discuss details. I asked if there was any evidence. He shrugged like evidence is optional when someone says the right words. I asked to make my call. They handed me a phone that looks like it has been dropped 1,000 times. My mind went through options fast. A friend who is a lawyer. My union rep. My manager. Then I pictured Lena at my apartment going through everything while I sit in a holding cell with no shoelaces. I also pictured her calling my mom to spin a story first. So I call my father. This is the part one never tell people because it sounds like I am making it up. My dad is a captain in major crimes. Not a TV version. A real one. He does not do favors. He is also not sentimental. We are not close in a warm way, but he is consistent. He picked up on the second ring. I said, Dad, I am at the station. I am being booked for domestic assault. It is Lena. It is not true. There was a pause that felt heavy. Then he asked one question. Which station? I told him. He said, stay calm and do not answer questions without counsel. Then he hung up. 20 minutes later, the mood in that hallway shifted. People started moving quicker. A sergeant walked past and looked at me twice. Then the desk officer suddenly remembered my last name and stopped sounding bored. And I realized Lena probably thought my one call would be wasted on begging her to stop. She did not expect I would call the one person in the city who actually knows how the system works from the inside. About 30 minutes after I made that call, I heard my last name spoken in a different tone. Not casual, not annoyed, precise. My father walked in wearing a plain suit, not his uniform. He was not loud. He did not storm anything. He simply asked the desk officer why his son was sitting there in handcuffs without a formal statement taken from him yet. You could feel the temperature change in the room. The officer started explaining that there had been a complaint, that protocol required detainment, that they were in the process of booking. My dad listened without interrupting. Then he asked whether there was visible injury documented, whether there were independent witnesses, whether they had secured any camera footage from the building Lena herself claimed the incident occurred in. The answers were vague. They had not reviewed footage yet. They had not photographed any injury. They were relying on her verbal statement. My father nodded once and said something I have heard him say my whole life. Procedure exists to protect both sides. He was calm. That was the part that unsettled everyone. He was not defending me emotionally. He was dismantling the process logically. He requested that the supervising officer join them. Within minutes, a lieutenant came out. They stepped aside, but not far enough that I could not see the body language. My father stood straight, hands clasped behind his back. The lieutenant kept adjusting his belt. I was eventually brought into a small interview room. My cuffs were removed. The tone shifted from assumed guilt to cautious neutrality. The lieutenant asked me to walk through the morning from start to finish. I did. Slowly. I kept it factual. Coffee. Kitchen counter. Her packed bag. The thread about deposits. The knock. I mentioned the hallway cameras. I mentioned that she had been telling me for weeks that I was going to regret not prioritizing her. No dramatic speeches. Just sequence and timing. After I finished, my father asked one final question in that room. Has anyone verified whether the complainant is still at the residence? An officer left immediately. About 20 minutes later, he came back looking less confident. Lena was not at the apartment. Neighbors said she left in a rideshare right after the arrest. That detail mattered. If she was in immediate danger, why leave calmly and disappear before even giving a formal recorded statement at the station? The lieutenant's jaw tightened. My father did not look at me. He looked at the lieutenant and said, I trust you will handle this thoroughly. For the first time since the cuffs clicked around my wrists, I felt something shift from panic to clarity. Lena thought this would scare me into submission. She thought a night in a cell would reset the power balance. What she did not factor in is that once you pull a lever like that, you do not control who else it moves. About an hour after my father arrived, the lieutenant came back into the room with a different tone entirely. He said they were going to release me pending further review. No charges filed at that moment. No formal arrest record beyond initial intake. That is a very careful sentence. Pending further review. I signed a temporary release form. They returned my belt and shoelaces. When I stepped back into the hallway, my father was waiting near the exit. He did not hug me. He did not ask if I was okay. He asked one question. Is there any part of her claim that can be misinterpreted? I said no. I never touched her. He held my gaze for a second, assessing. Then he nodded once. Good. Because this is no longer a relationship issue. This is a credibility issue. Outside the station, he finally explained what shifted things. An officer had reached Lena by phone and asked her to come in to finalize her statement. She said she was too shaken and needed time. That alone is not unusual. What was unusual was that she had already texted two mutual friends a very detailed version of events, complete with exact phrasing about me grabbing her wrist and threatening to ruin her life. The timing did not line up. The building manager was also contacted. Hallway footage showed her standing calmly outside the apartment door before the officers arrived. No visible distress. No attempt to leave in panic. She even adjusted her hair in the reflective elevator door. That does not prove innocence by itself, but it weakens urgency. My father told me something else that stuck. False allegations are rare, but when they happen, they tend to escalate, if not confronted immediately. If she realizes the system did not automatically destroy you, she might try again with more detail. He said I need to treat this like exposure management, not emotional fallout. I asked him directly if his involvement would create backlash. He said he did not interfere. He asked procedural questions. That is allowed. He also made it clear that if evidence supported her claim, he would not protect me. That is how he operates. When he dropped me off near my apartment building, he advised one thing. Do not go inside alone. Bring a neutral witness. Document everything. Change the locks if legally permitted. I called the building manager first. Lena is not on the lease. I am the sole tenant. That matters. Then I called my cousin who lives 15 minutes away and works freelance from home. He agreed to meet me there. As we walked toward the entrance, I could see our balcony doors slightly open, and I realized Lena might not have expected me back this quickly. My cousin arrived before I went in. I explained the situation without dramatics. He knows my father's job, so he understood immediately why documentation mattered more than emotions. The apartment door was unlocked. That alone told me Lena was not done. We walked in together, and I started recording video on my phone. Not secretly, just openly narrating date and time. The living room looked mostly intact, but smaller things were off. The framed photo from our engagement dinner was gone. Her shoes by the entrance were gone. 2 of my watches from the hallway drawer were missing. In the bedroom, half her clothes were gone. Not packed carefully. Cleared. My laptop bag was open on the bed, but the laptop was still inside. My passport drawer had been pulled out and left crooked. She had not left in panic. She had curated what she took. On the kitchen counter, there was a printed screenshot of what looked like a text draft. It was not addressed to anyone yet. It read something about surviving emotional abuse and finally having the courage to involve the police. She had highlighted parts in yellow. My cousin just looked at me and said she is building a narrative. That is when my phone buzzed. It was Lena, not a call, a message. She wrote that I should start thinking about how this will look at work. She said arrests have a way of following people. Then she added that if I apologize publicly and admit I scared her, maybe she will consider telling the police she overreacted. There it was. The leverage attempt. I did not respond. Instead, I took screenshots and forwarded them to my father and to a lawyer my cousin recommended. I also emailed the building manager requesting immediate lock change authorization since the lease is solely in my name, and there has been a domestic disturbance allegation. The manager replied within 15 minutes approving it due to safety concerns. I called a locksmith. While we waited, Lena sent another message. This one less polished. She said I embarrassed her by questioning the wedding. She said I needed to learn consequences. I did not analyze it. I did not argue. I blocked her number immediately. Then I blocked her on every platform I could think of. Messaging apps, social media, email filters set to archive anything from her address automatically. If she wanted communication, it could go through a lawyer. That decision felt cleaner than any reply would have. When the locksmith arrived, I showed him my ID and the lease copy from my email. He replaced the cylinder while my cousin stood in the hallway as witness. I did not feel angry at that point. I felt clear. If someone is willing to weaponize the legal system to win an argument, you do not negotiate with them. You remove access. By the time the new keys were in my hand, Lena was blocked everywhere. She just did not know she no longer had a door to come back to. The first quiet hour after blocking her was almost unsettling. No more buzzing. No more calculated threats disguised as wounded messages. Just silence and the metallic sound of the new lock clicking into place. My cousin stayed for a while. We made a basic inventory of what was missing and photographed every room. I emailed the photos to myself and to the lawyer, so there was a time-stamped record. I also wrote a short factual summary of the day while it was fresh. Not emotional, just sequence. Around early evening, my father called. He said Lena had finally agreed to come in to formalize her statement. According to him, her version had already shifted slightly. Now she claimed I grabbed her arm near the bedroom door instead of the kitchen. Small detail, but inconsistent with what she told the responding officers. He also told me something more interesting. She had mentioned during her statement that I often threaten her with my father's position. That part was completely fabricated. I have never once used his job in an argument. In fact, I go out of my way not to mention it because I hate the implication. My father said that particular addition raised eyebrows. It suggested motive. If she believed she needed to paint me as someone who weaponizes authority, that means she anticipated scrutiny. The hallway footage had already been reviewed. No visible distress when officers arrived. No visible marks on her arms in the elevator mirror reflection. Again, not definitive proof of anything, but it weakened urgency. The lieutenant apparently asked her directly whether she sought medical evaluation. She declined. By late evening, I received a formal notice by email that the complaint was under review and no charges were being filed at this time due to insufficient corroboration. Not dismissed. Not fully closed. Under review. That is important, because it means the allegation exists on paper. About an hour after that email, my cousin's phone buzzed. Lena had messaged him since she could no longer reach me. She told him I was spiraling and that she feared for her safety because I changed the locks. That was fast. She pivoted from punishment to victim narrative within hours. I asked my cousin not to reply. Instead, I had him forward the message to me and to the lawyer. Then I did something that probably looks cold from the outside. I called my employer. I asked to speak to HR and my direct supervisor together. I informed them that a false domestic allegation had been made, that no charges were filed, and that I wanted it documented in case any external inquiry surfaced. I refused to let her control the first version of the story at my workplace. Control of narrative matters. And if Lena thought embarrassment would break me, she underestimated how comfortable I am with documentation and process. But what I did not anticipate was how quickly she would escalate once she realized silence did not scare me. The next morning, Lena escalated exactly the way my father predicted. She sent a long email to my mother. I know because my mom forwarded it to me without commentary. The message painted a very polished version of events. She described years of subtle intimidation. She implied I had anger issues. She mentioned the arrest repeatedly, carefully avoiding the fact that no charges were filed. It was written for sympathy, not accuracy. I did not reply to her. I responded to my mother instead. I sent her the timeline, the police release notice, and screenshots of Lena's messages about teaching me consequences. My mother is not dramatic. She read everything and simply said this is not normal behavior. By midday, the lawyer called me. He said based on the messages Lena sent after the arrest, especially the part offering to retract in exchange for a public apology, there is potential evidence of malicious intent. He advised me not to threaten anything, not to contact her, and to preserve every piece of communication. He also suggested something I had not considered. File a formal report regarding the coercive messages. Not to retaliate, to create a record. That afternoon, I went back to the station voluntarily and provided the screenshots. I kept it factual. I explained I had blocked her and did not intend further contact. The officer documenting it seemed more careful with his wording this time. While I was there, I learned Lena had called earlier asking whether I had been formally charged yet. That detail settled any lingering doubt. She was not afraid of me. She was waiting for damage confirmation. When I returned home, I found a small padded envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was my engagement ring. No note. It would have been dramatic if I did not know her patterns. This was not closure. This was positioning. If she returned the ring first, she could later claim she ended it because she feared me. I placed the ring in a drawer and documented its arrival with a photo and timestamp. There is something unsettling about watching someone shift from partner to adversary in less than 48 hours. But once you see the strategy, you stop taking it personally. And Lena was very much still strategizing. 2 days passed without direct contact from Lena. That did not mean she was inactive. A mutual friend called me that evening. He sounded uncomfortable. Lena had hosted a small gathering at another friend's apartment and told everyone she narrowly escaped a violent situation. She did not name me directly at first, but she let people connect the dots. By the end of the night, she was openly saying I was arrested for assault. He told me because he knows me well enough to question it. I thanked him and asked one thing. Did she mention charges? He said no. Just arrest. Selective wording again. I did not try to defend myself through him. I simply emailed the lawyer summarizing what I had been told. Then I drafted a short, neutral message and sent it to a small group of close friends. I stated that an allegation had been made, that no charges were filed due to lack of corroboration, and that I would not be discussing it further. I attached the official notice. No insults. No counter-accusations. Control the narrative with documents, not emotion. Later that night, my father called with an update. The complaint had been marked as closed pending no further evidence. Not proven false, but not moving forward. That distinction matters legally. It means there is no active case. He also told me something that confirmed my instincts. During her second follow-up call with the station, Lena asked whether filing a complaint guarantees a restraining order. That question is not something someone asks if they are simply scared. That is someone exploring leverage. At that point, I made a final logistical decision. I informed the landlord that Lena would not be returning and provided written notice that only I am authorized to access the unit. I removed her name from shared utility accounts. I changed all passwords linked to joint services. Streaming, internet, cloud storage. Clean separation. The strangest part is that I was not heartbroken. I was disappointed in my own miscalculation. I mistook sharpness for strength. I mistook control for competence. And now the wedding venue was still booked under both our names, which meant there was one last practical conversation left, whether I liked it or not. The venue contract was under both our names, but I paid the deposit from my account. I emailed the venue coordinator first thing in the morning. I kept it simple. The wedding was canceled due to a personal matter. I asked what documentation they needed to release me from liability and whether the deposit was refundable or transferable. Within an hour, Lena emailed them too. She claimed the event was postponed due to emotional distress caused by me. She asked them not to cancel anything yet and said there might be legal proceedings. The coordinator replied to both of us requesting a joint written confirmation to cancel or a legal order. Predictable. Instead of arguing with Lena, I forwarded the contract to my lawyer. He drafted a short formal notice stating the engagement was terminated and that I was withdrawing consent for the event. He requested written confirmation of cancellation and clarity on deposit allocation. That same afternoon, Lena emailed me from a new address since she was blocked everywhere else. She accused me of trying to financially sabotage her. She said if I cancel the venue unilaterally, she will tell everyone why. I did not respond to her. I forwarded it. By early evening, the venue confirmed in writing that without mutual consent, they would retain the deposit and release the date. I made the decision immediately. I authorized forfeiture of my portion. It was not a small amount, but it was finite. Predictable loss is better than ongoing leverage. An hour later, Lena sent another email. Short this time. She wrote that I was overreacting and ruining both our reputations. That sentence was the clearest one she had written all week. Not safety. Not fear. Reputation. I realized something uncomfortable. The arrest was not about hurting me physically. It was about narrative dominance. If she could label me publicly first, she controlled the breakup story forever. But she miscalculated two things. 1. I document everything. 2. I do not negotiate under threat. By the end of that night, the venue date was released. The deposit was gone. The engagement was legally and practically dead. And for the first time since the handcuffs clicked shut, there were no open threads left for her to pull. Which meant the only thing remaining was whether she would try one last move, or finally accept that the leverage failed. There was one last move. 3 days after the venue was canceled, I received a formal letter from a lawyer representing Lena. It alleged emotional abuse and claimed I forced her out of the apartment by changing the locks. The timing was not random. The letter arrived the same morning. She posted a long statement online about reclaiming her life from a controlling partner. She did not use my name, but anyone who knew about the canceled wedding could connect it. The lawyer's letter demanded financial compensation for relocation expenses and half of the wedding deposit. It hinted that if I did not cooperate, she would pursue civil action and seek a protective order. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer and went to work. By the afternoon, my lawyer responded formally. He attached the lease showing I was sole tenant. He attached the message where Lena offered to retract her police statement in exchange for a public apology. He attached confirmation that no charges were filed due to lack of corroboration. He also stated clearly that any further defamatory statements would result in counterclaims. No threats, just structure. 2 days later, Lena's lawyer replied again. The tone had softened. They said their client wished to resolve matters privately and withdraw previous demands. Translation. They reviewed the documentation. That same week, Lena removed her online post. There was no apology. There never would be. But there was silence. It has been 4 months now. No new allegations. No legal action. No indirect messages through friends. The complaint remains on record as reviewed and closed without charges. That part will likely never disappear completely. I am realistic about that. What I learned is simple. When someone is willing to weaponize systems to win an argument, the relationship is already over. The only question is how cleanly you exit. I lost a deposit. I lost a fiancé. I lost the version of the future I thought I had scheduled. What I did not lose was my credibility. And once I understood that was the real target, the rest became procedural. If you are reading this because you are in something similar, document everything. Do not argue under threat. And never assume someone will stop escalating just because you feel hurt. Sometimes the most stable move is the quiet one. Close the door. Change the lock. Keep the record. Then move forward.